attention in the present moment by using the body, the thoughts, the emotions, and the breath as the connecting point, the body being that gateway into the present moment experience. So beginning with a 15-second mindful smile. A lot of the research shows that smiling is a very, very effective way of lowering stress and getting into the moment. And when you combine that with mindfulness practice, it becomes exponentially more effective. So 15 seconds, big smile. All right. And now moving on to a 2-minute mindful breathing practice, after which I'll introduce today's 8-minute practice. Then we'll do a quick Q&A, take one question today, and then finish up with a mindful smile. So for the mindful breathing practice, let's start by bringing our attention to posture. Just noticing our posture, lining up the head, the neck, and the spine, and finding a comfortable position. Eyes open, closed, or glancing down. And then fully experiencing the breath as it is in this moment, as we breathe in and out through the nose. And also breathing diaphragmatically, which means that on the in-breath, the lower belly inflates. The breath goes up into the chest and shoulder area, and then on the out breath, the belly deflates. So inflating on the in breath, deflating on the out breath. That's diaphragmatic breathing. Very good way to breathe, combined with the nose breathing. Keeps those stress levels down. So breathing. Staying with the breath. And from time to time, you may notice that the attention wanders away from the breath. When that happens, take note of where it goes. Maybe it goes to a thought or a physical sensation or an emotion, and then bringing it back to the breath. Breathing. Staying with the breath, perhaps noticing the air as it enters the nostril and then leaves the nostrils. Experiencing the breath in whatever way you do. Always feel free to use your creativity and imagination with this practice. Breathing. All right, so that's about 2 minutes. Today's 8-minute practice is mindful eating. I'm going to be using 3 raisins. I'm going to go through this exercise 3 times at different speeds. There's my raisin. So I know you weren't prepared ahead of time. So just put the video on pause and go get your food of choice, keeping it simple. If it's not a raisin, maybe a three dried cranberries or three slices of orange. But you want to get three because we're going to go through it three times at different speeds. And the whole purpose of doing this mindful eating exercise is because it gives us the opportunity to go through all five senses in connecting to the body. So it's just another way of connecting to that body, that present moment experience. So right through the five senses, and eating gives us that opportunity. So go ahead, put it on pause, and go get your food. And then when you come back, just resume it again, and there you go. All right, so starting with the first eating practice. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to be using the raisin. And we'll go relatively slowly, the second one a little more quickly, third one even more quickly. The idea being that we want to experience eating at different speeds because we can't always eat slowly. Sometimes we don't have time, we have to eat quickly. And there's no reason why we can't be mindful and present when we're eating quickly as well, even when we're gobbling down our food. So starting with the experience of mindful looking, just engaging that sense of sight. As we look at the raisin, going through the avenue of the five senses, starting with sight. And now let's move on to touch. So I like to look away from the raisin so I can isolate that sense of touch. So just experiencing touch with that raisin. Keeping the attention right here, noticing when it wanders, bringing it back, just like in formal meditation practice. It's the same process, same skill set. And now moving on to mindful listening. What I do is I just kind of squish the raisin. I can get a sound out of it there. Or if you can't hear anything, just tapping your finger up against whatever your food of choice is and engaging that sense of hearing. And then smelling, mindful smelling. So keeping the attention with that sense of smell. And just fully experiencing smelling. Connecting to the body, to the present moment through the body. And then finally, that sense of smell. That sense of taste. And when we put it in our mouths, just letting it sit there for a few moments before we chew it up. Okay, so that's our first eating practice. The next one, as I mentioned before, we're going to do a bit faster so that we can begin to simulate eating in a situation where we don't have as much time. So I'm going to get my second raisin out, and there it is. Going a bit faster and just staying connected, close attention to these five senses. Sense of sight, and then touch, and hearing, and smell, and taste. All right, so that's practice number 2. And as I mentioned before, we don't always have the luxury of being able to take our time when we eat. That's why we're speeding up here. The next one's going to be even faster, with the idea of training ourselves to be present even when we have to rush through different experiences. There's nothing that says that in order to be mindful, we have to move slowly or do things slowly. We need to use mindfulness as a tool that will be able to be integrated into every aspect of our life and every way that we experience our life. So the next one's going to be pretty quick. So if you can imagine, you have very little time for lunch and you're just gobbling down your lunch. Nonetheless, you can still be present. You can still be mindful of that gobbling down. So raisin number 3, and looking at the raisin, touch, hearing, smell, and taste. Even that was slow compared to sometimes when we're even in a bigger rush than that, when we're just gobbling down fast food. But still, you can see that mindfulness is able to be adapted to all different kinds of situations in life. You don't need to be out on retreat. You don't need to be doing things slowly. You can completely integrate this present moment experience into all different kinds of activities, fast, medium, or slow. It doesn't really matter. You can still be mindful in all different kinds of situations. All right, so that's our mindful eating practice for today. And let's see, Jimmy's got a question about, does mindfulness help with anti-aging? Okay, so first, before I answer that, let me just say that generally speaking, we don't really practice mindfulness so that we can live to be a lot of years. Although what the research is showing us is that becoming healthy through the practice of mindfulness is a definite byproduct of the practice. And therefore, if we're healthier, it stands to reason that there's a better chance of us living for longer periods of time. So as far as mindfulness playing into an anti-aging strategy, it does, but it does so as a byproduct. It does so indirectly. So we don't actually try to live longer. It just becomes a byproduct of the practice. One of the qualities, one of the aspects of mindfulness practice, of being in the moment, is a non-striving kind of attitude. So we just do the practice, and then we let the byproduct, all the good things, all the good byproducts of the practice unfold naturally. So no need to strive and push yourself to live for a long time. It'll just be a byproduct. In the meantime, you'll be experiencing better health generally through the practice and lots of research out there attests to that. In fact, there are some very specific studies having to do with anti-aging and what they call telomeres, which are the caps on the DNA strands. And as we naturally age, these caps get worn out. And so that contributes to the aging process. But what they've discovered in research is that the practice of mindfulness actually rejuvenates those telomeres on the ends of the DNA strands. So that's a very specific evidence pointing to the anti-aging benefits of the mindfulness practice. But remembering once again that we're not necessarily going for lots of years, we're going for the quality of life moment by moment. It's all about the quality of life moment by moment. And if a byproduct of the practice is that you're living longer, then that's great. So Jimmy, I hope that answered your question about the connection between mindfulness and anti-aging. So that's it for today. Let's finish with our 15-second mindful smile. All righty. Always good to spend time together with you. And until next time, be well and take care. And remember to practice.